Local farm broadcaster Jared White covers the local agriculture news you need to know. Hear his reports by downloading the free WHOW mobile app.
Your local radio stations are here for you. No subscriptions or monthly fees necessary. We're here to give you the news, weather, and traffic you need, and the music you love. But if the foreign-owned record labels get their way, it could stop the music. They want Congress to force radio stations to pay them more money, simply to play their music. Don't let radio go silent. Text LOCAL to 52886 and tell Congress to protect local radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
When Weeds and Grass put up a fight, do more than fight back. Go for the knockout. The Impact family of corn herbicides are trusted across the nation to go toe-to-toe with tough yield-robbing grass and broadleaf weeds and come out on top. Plus, with tank mix flexibility and a wide application window, there's an Impact family product that can punch out almost any situation. To knock weeds out, fight with Impact. Explore the entire family of fighters at fightwithimpact.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone today, Mr. Fred Lamkey, is the superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools. Good morning, Mr. Lamkey. How are you?
We're doing just great in Mount Pulaski. Seth, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Folks want to know, Mr. Lamkey, this is the pressing question of the day. How far is Illinois going this weekend?
Boy, you know what? If you could figure that team out, you'd be amazing.
Oh, man. So frustrating, right?
I'm a season ticket holder to Illinois games. So I've been over there 10 or 12 times this year to watch games. And I've had some of the most thrilling moments of basketball you could ever imagine. And I've been so disappointed walking out of that hall. I think they're like a lot of teams in the tournament. They could run away with this thing. I mean, they could beat Kansas. But then again, I'm not sure if they could beat a 16 seed on some nights. So we'll have to see who shows up. I think it's a 3-ball fall. Illinois does fine.
Yeah, man. It's just so frustrating. Like, I watch this team, and it's like, I don't even have hair, and I want to pull it out, Mr. Lamkey. It's ridiculous. But
completely understand that.
Yeah, but anyways, by the way, how you feeling? I know you had an injury a while back. You feeling okay? I hate to put that out there on the air like that, but I know you had an injury.
No.
You feeling okay?
No, I tore my short bicep, and I did that in January in a weightlifting accident, and it's been amazing to me what they can do, because I was in surgery a week later, and I've just said constantly it's done nothing but get better every day, every week. I'm just about done with my rehabilitation on it. I use it pretty normally. I just can't kind of carry heavy weights, but it's just absolutely amazing me. I thought I'd be out until summer, and here we come. I thought I was going to miss lawn mowing season with it starting off. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I'm going to be on top of my mower when that grass gets tall enough.
There you go. Very good. Well, Mr. Lamkey, let's talk here this morning about some development things, some school development things going on. You're going to sit down and strategize and those sorts of things in the coming weeks. What's going on here?
We're right now at Mount Pulaski. We're in the middle of negotiations with our teachers union, and they're going well so far. We met last Wednesday, and we've progressed nicely to this point. We're going to meet again tonight and see how far we can get. Traditionally, we've done this in pretty short term in Mount Pulaski because we have an outstanding relationship between our teachers, our administrators, and our Board of Education. So looking for good things to come out of that. And I think the common thing is that we all want Mount Pulaski to be the best it can be. And we know what it takes to do that. So I think it's pretty open-minded moving forward. So that's one thing that's really been kind of consuming us at that level. We had an interesting meeting in Clinton with Senator Turner a couple of weeks ago, and we were able to talk with her about concerns and things that were going on around us in education and statewide. And we had some good conversations with her. I think if you talk to some of the other superintendents, they really appreciate Senator Turner and her ability to pull us together to listen and then apply what we're thinking to how she does her work. So
yeah.
really good.
No question. I've enjoyed the conversations that I've had with her. So those and seems like she's doing well in her role there in Springfield, and kind of got her feet wet the first time around and got reelected, and so now really diving in. So let's talk school improvement, Mr. Lamkey. As you get past some of these things, you talk about negotiation and all of that. School improvement on the horizon. What are you looking at there? What's this all about?
Well, I've just spent the last couple of weeks meeting with our building leadership team, which are comprised of a representative number of teachers, about 4 or 5 teachers from each building working with administrators, and they're responsible for making sure that our school improvement plan that we make every single year gets carried out. And like any plan, there's some parts of a plan that get done to a high level, and there's other parts that get done to a lower level. So as we come onto the spring season here, it's our responsibility to evaluate ourselves to see what we've done, how well we've done with that plan, and then start making our plans for starting next school year already.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that process is informing our Board of Education about where we're at and what we're doing. It's awful tough from a board seat. You may have children in the district. You meet once a month as a board, complete board. You may meet other times as a committee. But to really get a good snapshot of what's going on inside our schools, it's tough to do. So on May 13th, we're having a data retreat in our high school. And what we're going to do is we're going to be sitting down with each building's BLTs and our Board of Education and having intimate conversations about what we're accomplishing, where we're going, and what we're getting done in our buildings. And it's very similar in both buildings, the things that we're doing, but there are intricacies that are different because of the difference in age levels. So that's what's going on with our school improvement plan. And I'm really excited about this May meeting. It's something we haven't been able to do in past years because of the pandemic. We just didn't have the focus to get it done. But now we do. So again, that's another sign things are getting back to normal.
When you talk building leadership teams, Mr. Lamkey, is it a focus on academics? Is it a focus on extracurriculars? Is it a focus on facilities? Where are you dialing in at in this round of improvements?
It's really a focus on everything. Obviously, instructional improvement. In the past, in schools, a lot of times you didn't have enough guidance, and it would be left to the principal to say, we need to do this professional development, or that teacher needs to go to that workshop. But we did a lot of things in schools that just didn't have rhyme or reason. They were random. And this building improvement team really gives us a focus on the things that we need to work on. And then we cater all of our professional development during the year on the items of that school improvement plan. So instead of just randomly doing things and having no follow-up as in past year, I mean, if you go back 15, 10, 20 years ago, that's the way it was everywhere. Now we have a real focus on what we're doing, and we can follow up. And what gets monitored gets done. It's something I always say. If we do a professional development and never follow up on it, chances are it never gets applied. But if we monitor it and we see how we're using it and how we're applying it to our trade, then all of a sudden we can start measuring improvements, and we can decide if the things that we're doing are working or need adjusted, or maybe need to go a different direction. So it goes instructional. It also talks about climate in buildings when you're talking about school improvement plan. It talks about relationships with our community. It talks about all those silos that go into making a school what a school actually is. And it can change each year, but usually it's small adjustments to get a little closer to your target. I always say when we're looking at a school improvement plan, it's like a dartboard. In the first couple of years that you're working on it, it's the entire dartboard. You're just trying to throw a dart, hitting that board. But the more years that you're involved in the process, that focus gets more narrow and more narrow, and you're shooting for those bullseyes, those things that make big impacts on student instruction, school climate, teacher preparedness, and that's what we're walking towards.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about those things, I mean, is it goal setting, over a 3-5 year period? Is it just, here's what we're going to do and just kind of follow the path forward? What's this plan look like once it's put together?
That's an excellent question. If you go back to my first year in district, 2019-2020 school year, we did a strategic planning session with over 60 people from our community, our school building, our students, our business people, parents, clergy, you name it. We had everybody in the building. And we came into that meeting, and it was led by the Illinois Association of School Boards. And they came in and they facilitated this to find out, what does Mount Pulaski value? And going through that day, it was just an entire day of activities, of interaction and working together to make this determination. And from that, we created a district improvement plan. And then as we looked at that district improvement plan that year, we divided it into what does that look like at the grade school? What does that look like at the high school? And we created individual school improvement plans. So getting to your question, that process usually goes on a 5-year loop. So we're going to be just finishing up next year, our 5th year of our school improvement plan, which we will get back together as a community once again after that and reevaluate where we're at and see if our needs or our expectations have changed. And then that'll inform our district improvement plan, and we'll move forward once again. It's very cyclical.
Fred Lamkey, superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, is my guest on the phone here for this morning. So when you put that plan together, Mr. Lamkey, talk to me about how you go about getting buy-in from your teachers and staff. And, I'm sure this has to have a trickle-down effect where you've got to really have everybody on board and pulling in the same direction. So how do you manage that?
Well, I think previously buy-in was difficult because it was always administrator decisions telling us what that improvement plan looked like and where we were going. But it creates autonomy because there's 5 members of our staff in each building that serve on a committee on the BLT, our building leadership team, with the administrator. So the administrator's not making decisions. They're making decisions as a group. And we get representative group of teachers on that team. And so they're communicating out with the other teachers. So I really think it does create that buy-in. And it allows them to be part of the process where they're not just performing duties they're told to do, but they're actually creating actions and activities and systems that they've designed. And that is the buy-in. And I think, to me, that's 100% of why we're finding success in what we're doing, because our teachers are involved and they feel part of the process and they know their voices are heard.
When it comes to, how, like, towards the end, as you look back and reflect, like you're talking about reflecting now on the last plan you had put together. Obviously, I'm sure, the wrinkle of COVID is making perhaps that evaluation a little difficult because of all the challenges you had to overcome there. But, is this something that continues to, go on in terms of, strategies and evaluations, just updating those? Like, what happens when you get towards the end of this one?
Then your needs and necessities will change. But if anything I've learned, and I've been a part of being in processes like this for the last 25 years. And what you always find is that you're never done with your work. You're never done improving. You start to really fine tune things and be able to use your data more definitively and be able to make better decisions about what your needs are. And as I said, I go back to that dartboard example. When you're shooting just to try and hit that dartboard, that's your first years because you don't really know what you're doing. You don't know what the data tells you. But the more you do it, the longer you're in it, you just keep fine tuning it. And you're right, there'll be some things that may fall off, like, hey, we're doing this well. We just need to monitor that. But now this is a bigger concern for us. And that's why every 5 years you want to come through and reevaluate. That's why every year you want to create a new school improvement plan, because what you're doing the year before may be completed, probably isn't. Maybe it wasn't working. Maybe it needs to be revamped. And you got to just keep reevaluating your systems.
Mr. Lamkey, anything else on that before we take a break?
Oh, no, I think that's a lot of talk. I know it's tough for some for community members and people to understand that entire process. But I really feel like the more we talk about it, the more they understand what we're doing. I think the more faith and confidence they can have in their school system and understanding how we're trying to improve, and that there is a method to our madness.
Yeah, no doubt. It sounds very instrumental as well. So, yeah. Well, Mr. Lamkey, let's take a break. Come back with some more. Fred Lamkey, superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, on the phone with us. More to come on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.org.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn steady, beans lower, wheat trading slightly higher. May corn 622 1/4 up 1.5. July corn down 1/4, 609 1/2. September corn 565 1/2 down 2. May beans 1483 1/4 down 10 1/2. July beans down 11 1/2, 1470 1/4. August beans 1429 1/2 down 12 3/4. May wheat up 2 pennies, 698 1/4. July wheat 709 up 2 1/4. May bean meal 475.40 down 580. May bean oil 55.32 down 86 cents. Livestock market, March feeders 189.62 down 30 cents. April live cattle 162.52 down 52 cents. April lean hogs 84.82, down 57 cents. Energy market April crude oil 68.95, down 238. Jim Taylor on the RFD radio.
When is the last time you considered your pet's oral health? Hi, this is Dr. Seuster at Covenant Animal Clinic in Clinton. A pet's dental health is vitally important to their overall health. Learn about our dental services by clicking the Covenant Animal Clinic icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
By leveraging sustainable carbon management solutions like Navigator CO2's Heartland Greenway, ethanol facilities can make substantial progress toward carbon reduction objectives. Learn more on how they're partnering with ethanol producers across the Corn Belt. Click their icon at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Hi there, I'm here to tell you a little about this new program called Safe to Help Illinois. Maybe you know somebody who's being bullied, or worse, thinking about hurting themselves or others. If you don't feel safe telling an adult about the things that are happening around you, check out Safe to Help.
Safe to Help is not about snitching or getting someone in trouble. It's about helping one another out.
You can call, you can text.
You can download the free mobile app, and it's all over social media.
So what do you say? Let's give it a try.
Brought to you by IEMA.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Mr. Fred Lamkey, superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, on the phone with us here for today. And Mr. Lamkey, the state of Illinois wants to make pre-K a full-day program. I don't know if it's a mandatory thing, but full-day pre-K. What do you think about this idea?
I think full day pre-K and pre-K for all it's an outstanding idea. The earlier that we can get to our students and work with them and keep them from developing learning deficiencies, the better off we are. So it's hard to say this is a bad idea.
I'm sorry, not pre-K, kindergarten, just kindergarten. My fault.
Well, the full day kindergarten program? Oh,
yes.
Both of them. They're both actually out there because the governor's working really hard to push for everybody involved all day pre-K, and maybe not all day, but he wants every student to go to pre-K, 3 to 5 years old. And then he's also pushing for full day kindergarten. And the full day kindergarten in this area of the state's a little different because everybody has full day kindergarten. I remember back in 1974, Seth, when I went to kindergarten, I was a half day student.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the morning class. But that changed over the years, and now it's pretty common around here for full day of kindergarten, which almost everybody does. But in the collar counties, in the Chicago area, that's not the case, where a lot of their districts still have, maybe not a lot, but a substantial number have half-day kindergarten. So if this bill gets signed into law, it's going to create some real space needs and financial burdens on those districts up there. So it's a little the odd. Usually that stuff rolls downstate, and we end up bearing the burden of that. But this bill is actually rolling upstate and going to create problems for Chicago schools.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Now, what will be the challenges for them up there then?
Well, it would be similar, like I'll worry you backwards. So the pre-K bill that's coming out there, that Governor Pritzker has been really on top of saying, I want full-time pre-K for everybody, pre-K for all. And if that were to happen, I have one pre-K classroom right now that we are fully staffed, and there have been waiting lists in the past of kids wanting to get in. Now, if we offer it to every student in our district, that's going to probably double the size, which means another classroom, which means another teacher, which means more classroom aides, more resources. And again, these are all positive things because we're going to be doing better things for students. But at the same time, if it comes from the state as an unfunded mandate, that's just another burden put on our district by the state. So, and we're also in the middle of a teacher shortage. Mm-hmm. So while I think it's could have very, very positive results, I'm really skeptical about our district's ability, and not Mount Pulaski specifically, but even Illinois district's ability to do this with any fidelity and to have success at it, just because of our shortages and lack of funding.
Is it one of those things, Mr. Lamkey, that may be better off, as a goal for like 2025 or something like that, when there's, maybe a better grasp on the teacher shortage and, maybe efforts to address that have taken hold? Like, or is this a worthy effort now, and just schools are going to have to deal with it? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think we're probably going to have to deal with this, but it comes down to the same situation we see all the time in education, where the cart gets put in front of the horse. Right now, our problem is we do not have enough teachers to fill our classrooms as is. And instead of adding more programs that need more teachers, I think there needs to be a greater focus. It's not that there hasn't been any, because there has been some focus on getting more people into the teaching profession. But there needs to be a greater focus on it. We need to encourage our high school students to become teachers. There's not a lot encouraging them right now. And I think before we add new programs, we've got to create the teachers that can mandate those programs. So, if we can start some systems right now in Illinois that's getting, whether you have tuition cuts for people going into education that's covered, put in by the state, or you find a way of taking students from other states to come in and go to our programs. You start building up that population of teachers and educators, then 4 or 5 years down the road, you can start saying, now let's add these extra programs. We're already going to be in a hole because I believe in 2025, we have to offer, I believe, a second language for 3 years. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
And currently schools are really struggling just to have a 1-year foreign language for 1 or 2 for the few students that take it their first, second, and then some into their third, fourth. So again, we're already facing a deficit in those things. That's really concerning.
Yeah, and it just, it's a, it's kind of one of those fine line of, is it the state's job to mandate this, or should school districts be able to, to offer this at their own, kind of their own pace, if you will? Like, how do you feel about a lot of these things?
Yeah, absolutely. Just, local control. There was an interesting article I read in an ISA magazine, or ISA newsletter, actually, that the Macomb superintendent was saying just that we need to get the politicians out of the mandate situation where they're forcing us to do things that are or are not effective for our specific students. Because it's just like full day kindergarten is very manageable for us downstate, but it wouldn't be upstate. There are mandates that get pushed from upstate to downstate that we can't manage. But if you let us make our own decisions locally about what we can and can't do, we're going to make good decisions for our kids because we want the best for them.
Yeah, and then there's also the scenario, though, Mr. Lamkey, where, school districts may not do that because you talk about the teacher shortage, you talk about finances in a certain district, or maybe just districts are poorly run in some places, and so they're just not going to do this. I mean, so there's, I can, like, it's kind of the chicken or the egg, I guess, type of a thing.
I think you're right. I think the one thing I hold true is that there's not a community in the state of Illinois that doesn't want their school to be as good as it can be. Now, what I think is there's different perceptions of how good can we be. And you go from one community to the next, the expectations change. So I think people are probably pushing to get the most they can. And I think if the government would save those mandates for the really big, important things that you need to do where we can make our individual choices about other things, to me, that's what's important. Like I said, 4 years of a second language or 3 years of a second language for high school students would be outstanding. But anybody that took 4 years of high school Spanish knows that by the time they get to their 5th year, they probably can't go to Mexico or Spain and speak Spanish
right
as well fluently as they need to.
Yeah.
So we're bang for our buck too when you get out of that.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, Mr. Lamkey. I don't mean to cut us off here. Where do folks go to follow along with all things Mount Pulaski Schools?
Like always, we got an excellent webpage. You go to www.mountpulaski.k12.il.us. Our Facebook pages are also very informative. We have one for Mount Pulaski High School and Mount Pulaski Grade School.
Sure.
And stay together with all things athletics in Mount Pulaski at MPATHDIR, Mount Pulaski Athletic Director on Twitter.
That is Mr. Fred Lamkey, Superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton.